Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hope Talks. I'm Dr. Charles Montorio-Archer, President and CEO at One Hope United. Hope Talks are a conversation with industry experts and thought leaders around protecting children, strengthening families, and stabilizing communities. Today's guest is Ángela Quijada-Banks, the author of the Black Foster Youth Handbook and recently nominated by the NAACP for an outstanding literary work. Today's conversation will be about aging successfully out of foster care. Welcome, Ángela.
Hi, it's so great to be here. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
So am I. I'm really excited to hear what you've been doing and how you got to this place. And in this month of foster care awareness, I think you are the ideal person for us to be having this conversation with.
Yes.
So let's jump right in. My first question is, please tell us about who you are and about the work you're currently doing.
All right. Well, my name is Ángela Quijada-Banks. I currently live in San Diego, California. However, I spent time in North Carolina's foster care system. So that's a lot of where I started, my advocacy and spoken word, even some books that I collaborated on with different organizations in the state. So a lot of my heart goes out to North Carolina as well. I feel like I had a lot of my teenage years there and started college there. So today I am an author, and I also have a publishing company where I really help people focus on telling their stories in a way that empowers them and makes them feel like they do truly have a purpose in this life. I think a lot of times when we go through trauma and, different levels of pain, years after years, we kind of forget who we are, why we are. And it's really important to be really clear on that. Like, why am I here? What am I doing? And, who am I impacting in this life? So that's one of the major things that's important to me. And I'm a founder of Consciously Melanated Queens, where we seek to empower young women of color in community, holistic healing, and healthy relationships, really focusing on creating purposeful relationships and welcoming their purpose in who they are. So that's kind of like one of the themes I feel like in a lot of the work that I do, whether it's spoken word, writing books, or my businesses, is really seeking to empower people and cultivating this sense of wealth in holistic health, finances, and healthy loving relationships. So that's some of the work that I'm currently doing now.
It is absolutely fantastic. I think, as you're talking about, the why, it definitely, I have a sense that you found your why and you're living it in all of its fullness. So tell me a little bit about how you got to the place of deciding that your why was telling the story through the Black Foster Youth Handbook.
Well, I think for many of us, we're multidimensional people. And when I talk to young women in my Divine Purpose coaching program, a lot of times what comes up is that we have so many different things that we would love to do. And we kind of get stuck in that too. Like, one, if you have a background of trauma or foster care, is, who am I after all of this? And then secondly, I have all these different ideas, but which one do I start? How do I start? And so for me, it was, which thing is really pulling on my heart right now? And specifically low-income communities of color, and any of the work that I do is really centered in that and impacting that because I understand the history. And I've been kind of doing this work since like I was in third grade, but I more so embraced it. I would say like when I was 16, 17, and I started there through spoken word. I actually was mute when I was 16. That's how trauma kind of manifested for me. And so it took me like a year to start reclaiming my voice until, one day I wrote a poem called A Life in Silence. I actually did include it in the Black Foster Youth Handbook, but A Life in Silence. And that was the first time that I really started speaking out. And that, went into political advisory and talking with congressional members about not just my story, but my sibling's story. I'm the oldest of 6 siblings that I've grown up with. So just really recognizing that my story isn't just about me, it's about the impact for others, and that we really do need change in these situations. The things that happened to me didn't just happen to me because I was strong enough to, figure it out. I hear that a lot, but I think it's also so that way we can go back and actually create some long lasting solutions and impact for those communities.
With what you're talking about is, living a life in silence. Who am I after my trauma? Has other foster youth or those currently or formerly in care responded to the handbook in any way?
Absolutely. There's so many young people of all ethnicities and backgrounds, even some people that are in other countries. I've had people in Australia and in Mexico, make comments about, wow, like this is resonating with me, and I traveled all across the States and even, to London, to Paris and other places before I wrote the handbook. So I started to see this common thread of certain patterns that was happening, just not just within youth, but within the family units. And I was really curious, why are we all, experiencing all these different things? And so it's been very, very overwhelming at times, even the responses and things, but it makes me excited to see, not just the youth, but also the supportive adults, the foster parents, the social workers, people that know nothing about foster care picking up this book and seeing like, I can see how I can, within my own background, even though it may be completely different than this girl that wrote this book, I can see how I can make some kind of shift in this community, because for a lot of people, they know nothing about foster care. And it's a hidden community. And then, as they're starting to learn about it, it's like, wow, like, first of all, I didn't even know this existed, but I'm seeing the intricacies of race and how that institutional racism can also play a big part into the foster care system.
Well, thank you for giving a voice to the voiceless. And I think, or those who are not seen, or this hidden community that we know exists, but we do not give enough attention to or voice to. So thank you very much for that. So take me from the Foster Youth Handbook to Conscious Melanated Queens, which is obviously in the same spectrum of what you're doing, but definitely two different platforms or position in that spectrum.
Yes. So in the book, I really wanted to focus on this sense of gaining a young person's understanding of where they are and who they are now, and kind of getting to the end of the book to a phase that I call soulful liberation. So there's 4 phases in the book, which is root, envision, ascension, and liberation. And so it's essentially this guide for young people and whoever is supporting them to get this young person out of bondage, which is a lot of times what happens. And that's a very complex topic as well. But essentially, a lot of these issues that bring young people and families into the foster care system is this generational trauma and pain, and it's unaddressed, and people are unaware of it, and it just continues and continues and continues. And so through Consciously Melanated Queens, it's more of a focus on the young women of color that have a lot of this perpetual ideologies that are not supporting them, and they have to take that leap of faith as well within themselves, like, I do want to invest in myself, and I do want to be in a place where I am giving back to my community, that I feel strong in my purpose, and I am not just working a job just to get the bills paid. This is more so a focus on liberation of finances, of mindset, of physical well-being, of spiritual well-being, and historical context, which all, in my understanding, cultivates a high sense of self-esteem. And if you feel good about yourself, then you're able to help others and support others in their journey to feel good about themselves. And you're not going to feel good about perpetuating any kind of generational trauma, you're going to be more aware of it because you see yourself as valuable. You see yourself as worthy of even luxury, of having fun, of living life, and not being in a perpetual state of trauma and pain, and seeing that that is absolutely possible for you. So my clients in the purpose coaching program, that's kind of what we focus on, is holistic healing. As I said, purpose, and really knowing that their life can be far greater than what they experienced in their past or in their childhood.
You mentioned about their paths are far greater than what their childhood has been. You know, in the advocacy space and in the awareness space, how important is it for those with lived experiences to be at the table where these conversations and decisions are happening?
Well, I say if someone is not, giving you a seat at the table, then create your own table.
Mhm.
And so that's another reason why I love this podcast. I think it's really important to have more spaces where this is needed, but you know, you can have so many good intentions about what someone else wants, but it's way more impactful to just ask them,
Mhm.
and have them have their input, and listen and act on. We don't want to have a 30-year conversation about the same thing over and over again. We want to have conversations with actual action steps and, what deliverables. How are we applying what we've learned? Are we just talking to make everybody feel good?
Mhm.
Or are we actually looking to create an impact? And how is that being done in a measurable way?
Thank you. It definitely leads me to my last question, where for me personally, I find hope, daily in the work that I do, the people that I meet, the stories I'm able to tell. And that's my perspective on it. Where do you see hope, and how can that hope be obtained by everybody?
Hmm. I love this question. Um, so I find hope in a lot of areas. I think a lot of times people stay focused on, the future, the future, the future. But I also find hope from the past. I find hope from my ancestors. Um, that's a lot of where I pull a lot of my strength from. I feel like that's a huge reason why I'm here. I think about my peers, people that are also alongside me, and people like you that are, creating spaces for people to have conversations about, you know, what needs to be done. And also, like, hope is such a huge aspect of solutions. If you don't even believe that it can be possible, then what's the point?
Mhm.
So definitely that. And also, I'm noticing just in the world kind of this shift in consciousness where these conversations are more welcomed, about race, about foster care, about the most uncomfortable things, mental health. um, so I think through the journey of liberation, or recognizing oneself outside of capital value, is something that has continuously been giving me hope, for sure.
Well, thank you. In closing, just thinking about this idea that you can find hope in the past, that you can find hope in adversity, that hope is not always the, hill on top of the mountain. There is this journey to getting to this hopeful space that we all are currently in. And I have to thank you, Angela, for your time today. You have definitely been a bright light for me, and understanding that the work that I'm currently doing at One Hope United does reach people, and there are people like you and youth like you that become adults like you, and you definitely have given me hope today. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you. Well, this is our Hope Talk today. I definitely thank Ángela Quijada-Banks for being a part of this conversation. And for anybody who has not registered for our Hope Talks, please visit onehopeunited.org or follow us on all social media networks. Until next time, find hope every day. Thank you.